work to do, and Tuesday Americans sent Washington a clear message: get the job done, end quote. This is the first of many appointments in the Obama administration. And joining us now, author of the book Fleeced, a New York Times bestseller, former Clinton advisor dick+morris. Dick, I started to say earlier that Lindsey Graham said this is a great choice. He's great to work with. He's fair. He's candid. He can be tough. Great appointment. Lindsey Graham, who I know that everybody who likes John McCain also likes.
Well, I know Rahm very well. His claim to fame was that he was the biggest fundraiser for Clinton in '92. A former ballet dancer. And, but Rahm is for Rahm. Rahm is in business for Rahm. I remember I got a telephone call from the president one Sunday morning, and he was apoplectic because his poll numbers had shown up on the front page of the Washington Post. And he said, "Who did you tell?" And I said, "I didn't talk to the press." And he said, "You didn't talk to the press, but you talk, and you talk, and you talk. Who did you tell?" And I said, "I just told George and Rahm, Emanuel and Stephanopoulos." And he said, "You just told George and Rahm. You just told George and Rahm. Why didn't you issue an effing press release?" And then I said, and he didn't say effing, then I said, "I thought I could trust your counsel and your chief deputy." And he said, "Well, you can't." And Clinton never told the truth to Emanuel. He constantly cut Rahm out. He was afraid of him because Rahm was always in business for Rahm, and Rahm would leak to the Washington Post. He would always make sure his image was perfect, and he had in the back of his mind the political career he now has. And Obama is making a huge mistake in picking this guy, because whenever he does something this guy doesn't like, he's going to read about it on the front page of the newspaper.
Why am I not shocked to hear people on the other side trash the first thing Obama does?
But
and throw down the stairs his appointment.
No, but I'm not talking about this from the point of view of saying he's too radical and too partisan and all of that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, I mean, that may be true, but I'm saying that you can't have as your chief of staff someone whose primary loyalty is not to you.
Well, by the way, he's the 126th and 128th most liberal congressman, according to a couple of studies that have been done. He's not radical. And didn't he work on welfare reform? And didn't he work on a number of other very...
Don't rebut something I didn't say.
I'm just because I know I'm going to hear before the night is over how liberal he is.
He's not liberal. He's confrontational. He's partisan. He's not radical.
Hey, Dick.
But the problem is that he's out for himself.
Hey, Dick, let me just correct the record. At one point, Alan said that in 2007, he voted with the Democrats 98% of the time. Yeah. You don't get more partisan than that. He's actually more partisan in that sense than
he formulates the Democratic position.
So let me understand this. He sends a dead fish to a pollster he doesn't like, and he uses the word F the Republicans, but this is the spirit of bipartisanship?
To me, the big thing about Obama's transition is that it's exactly the same people Hillary Clinton would have appointed. Yeah. He has 4 members of the Clinton cabinet in there. This is the change. He has Carol Browner in there. She introduced her husband, Tom Downey, who's a lobbyist for Fannie Mae and lobbyist for Dubai, to Chuck Schumer. Wait a sec. And her husband was paid $500,000 by Dubai. She had Bill Daley, who was on the Fannie Mae board that made these decisions that have screwed up the whole country. Larry Summers, Secretary of Treasury, he said that women are genetically inferior to men when it comes to math and science, and he was forced out as president of Harvard.
That's right.
This is the change? This is just like Jimmy Carter, ran as an outsider and appointed every insider in the world.
What about the bipartisans? Let me ask you about the Lieberman question here. I mean, here's Senator Obama the other night. Let's resist this temptation to fall back to the partisanship and the pettiness and the immaturity that has poisoned politics for so long. And Harry Reid and the Democrats are going to throw Joe Lieberman, who they acknowledge has voted with the Democrats an overwhelming majority of the time, but he disagreed on national security. What do you think about them throwing him out like this, treating him this way?
It's insane, and they're going to need his vote, as Bai said. But I remember very vividly a meeting I had with Bill Clinton in December of '92 with Bill and Hillary. And I urged him to govern from the middle, name a lot of Republicans to his cabinet, be bipartisan. He said yes. Then about a week later, he met with the leaders of the House and the Senate, the Democrats, Gephardt and Mitchell. And they said to him, If you cross the aisle and try to get Republican votes for your programs, we will abandon you just like we abandoned Jimmy Carter. Yeah. But if you stay within the caucus, they use the metaphor of the quarterback staying in the pocket, will protect you. And then what happened was that they forced him more and more and more to the left because he needed to get every single Democrat because he wasn't getting any Republican.
So what's going to happen
and that's what's going to happen to
even
Obama.
If he wants to go to the center,
they won't let him.
They won't let him go.
Because he'll be in a position where he needs every single Democratic senator. Right. And the real radicals will come to him and say, we want this, we want that, we want that. Clinton told me after 2 years I didn't even recognize myself. I want
to talk about the stock market going down. You think there's an impact as it relates to... Hang on a second. Number two, I want to talk about how far will he overreach? Will he try and silence talk radio and some of these other issues? We'll continue more with Dick Morris coming up, and then some blue... And we continue now with former Clinton advisor Dick Morris. All right, one of the big questions that remains, and I think rahm+Emanuel's evidence that he's going to move to the hard left, his multi-decade associations with radicals is not. I don't believe he's a centrist. I think he read speeches. I think it's propaganda. Here's my question: is he going to try and silence talk radio? Will he try and raise taxes? Will he really meet with rogue dictators? Will he really pull out of Iraq before victory? Do you think he'll try and implement the things that he said he'd do?
During the break, he told me to give short answers. Yes, 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 yes.
So you think he'll be radical?
In Fleeced, our book, Eileen and I talk a lot about what he would do, and there are two big things. First of all, he is going to try to silence talk radio, not just with the fairness doctrine. He's going to use the FCC statute to demand that they put liberals on the board and in managing directorships in the stations.
But why only radio? And if there's no other media, how will that be perceived by the American people that the government censors have come in?
He won't care how it's perceived. He'll use the power and he'll do it.
Will he succeed?
Oh yeah, sure. He automatically has.
So I need a new day job.
Yeah, he not only that, but he's going to.
So America will become Venezuela.
Well, you won't have talk radio like we know it. Now, in 2 years, the Supreme Court will throw it out because it's blatantly unconstitutional. But in the meantime, there's going to be havoc. Now, the other thing that I predicted in Fleeced is that the stock market would go crazy after he was elected. Not just because he's a radical, not just because he's a Democrat, but because he's going to raise the capital gains tax.
So look what's happening.
And every moron knows that if I sell my stock now, I pay 15%. If I sell my stock later, I pay at least 20 and perhaps 30.
So if he doesn't come out, let me follow up. If he doesn't come out and say, I'm not going to raise the capital gains tax, I'm not going to raise taxes, but heading into a economic slowdown, you're predicting the stock market's it's the Obama tanking?
Going to continue to tank. It's lost 12% of its value in the last 2 days. When it thought McCain was going to win because he was surging, it rose all the week before. And I think the pressure will build on Obama to announce no increase in capital gains tax. You cannot go to the investor and say, please put your money in the stock market. Please take that risk, and if you gain the money, I'll tax twice as much.
Hey, Dick, it rose election day on the anticipation of an Obama victory. Nobody thought McCain was going to win then. So you're going to come back here, and will you say the next time the market has a great day and goes up a few hundred points, we should thank Obama for that? If you're going to blame him every day, the market doesn't work like that.
I think that there may be some profit-taking and some recuperation, but I think that Obama's tax increases will have the same effect as Herbert Hoover's. In 1932, as the economy was coming out of the Depression, Hoover raised taxes on people making more than $100 a year from 20% to 55%. And the economy immediately tanked, and it led to the bank failures that happened when FDR took over. He's been very clear about what he's going to do, and that he hasn't affected the stock market. He's talking about only a small percentage going from 36 to 39, not up to 55%. So we're talking about a very different paradigm in terms of the math here. He's also talking about the capital gains tax, and during the primaries he said he'd raise it by 28 points. During the general he said 5. Who knows what he's going to do.
There aren't enough businesses who qualify in the capital gains to make that much that it's really going to affect the economy.
20% of the investors in the stock market are individuals who pay capital gains taxes, and all of them are over the 250 thing, and almost 98%. And what's going to happen now is that until he clarifies his capital gains proposal, this market is going to continue to tank.
By the way, you said in a column you just wrote, if there ever was an election not worth winning, it was the contest of 2008.
Yeah.
Why didn't you say that in all your appearances on the show leading up to the election?
Because I believe McCain would be a better president, and I'm glad that I fought for him, and I would fight for him again. But I believe that in the long-term interest of the Republican Party, you don't want to be running the country over the next 4 years. The President of the United States, Barack Obama, will be a trustee in bankruptcy. He will be like the guy the court appoints to sort out the debts of the corporation. And while his hands will be loose politically, he'll be able to do whatever he wants, they will be tied by the economic realities of the crisis.
And shouldn't we hope and pray
He's
for
a trustee in bankruptcy.
Hope and pray for his success?
Yes, we should. But we should also hope and pray first for his wisdom, because if he doesn't raise taxes, he's got a shot at making it through this thing. If he does, we're all going to be in tough shape.
We're talking about a very small raise for a very small percentage of the population.
Yeah, the only room in the boat we're shutting down is the engine room.
All right, Dick, thanks for being